Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out the Tyranids, Devourer of Worlds, Warhammer 40k lore/history by Hurtn09. Yes guys, I realized looking at my channel that the last fucking Tyranid video we did on the channel was actually over a month ago now at this point. It was the First Contact Battle of Macraig video. And I haven't done any more videos on the Tyranids since, and I don't know why, because it's a completely missed opportunity. I've been wanting to learn more about the Tyranids. They're such a massive threat in the 40k universe, and I know plenty of you guys have been asking for more Tyranid content. I'm looking at them like, I only got one video on the fucking Tyranids on my channel, so that has to change here today. I know Hurtn does a full series about the Tyranids. I know he does like there's a part 1 and a part 2 full lore. They're about an hour to an hour and a half long, I think, each, but we're gonna check out this half-hour long one. This is just kind of an overall view of the Tyranids, I think, and then if you guys enjoy the video, if you guys want me to check out more, leave a like on this video, of course. Let me know in the recommendations. I'll for sure go check out the part 1 and 2 of his like in-depth lore about the Tyranids, for sure, because I really want to learn more about them. Obviously, you know, if you guys saw the starter kit I bought, go check that out, that video out if you haven't. It has Tyranids in it, so I obviously do want to learn more about them. I just haven't for some reason, and I don't know why. So we're here to change that here today. We're gonna check it out. So if you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe for more content from me, and leave your recommendations, of course, down in the comments below. Big shout out to all of our members, all of our Hastati out there, and our Principe, Dagenhart. I appreciate you, sir. You guys inspire me to make more content for you guys every single day, and as usual, I'm sure this is going to be a banger video from Hurtn. He makes fantastic videos. I know this is one of his older ones, 6 years ago, but you know, every video I've seen from Hurtn is fantastic, so I'm really excited to check this one out. And if you guys want me to check out the next one, let me know in the comments, and leave a like on this video for sure. But yeah, without any further delay, let's get right into it, guys. Just make sure captions are on there, 1080p. Let's go. As always, this is a lore video, so I am going to be writing stuff down. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Holy shit. That sounded pretty loud in my ears. Though never a verdant world, the lifeless ball... Oh my god. Though never a verdant world, the lifeless ball of rock that was discovered was unrecognizable as Tyran Primus. Tyran Primus, that's right. And we did actually learn about that in that Vox in the Void video. I'll go check that one out too, guys, if you haven't. That was a great fucking video. What was that called? I am a servitor. That's it. I am a servitor. Go check that one out. That was a fucking fantastic video. You learn a little bit more about Tyran Prime there. The creatures that did this are a threat to the galaxy and must be exterminated by the light of the God Emperor. Inquisitor Kryptman said that. Okay. We all know about Kryptman. I've heard some things about Kryptman. I don't know in-depth lore about him, but I know Kryptman's a fucker. He just exterminated a bunch of planets to try to stop the Tyranids. It kind of worked, but at that point, why the fuck are you even doing it? There are many horrors
facing humanity in the 41st millennium. Few that rival the physically nightmarish alien race known as the Tyranids.
Yeah.
Also known as the Great Devourer.
Great Devourer.
Tyranids are a Xenos race best described as a bioformic ecosystem. All have genetically similar elements but regularly diverge and evolve.
Right.
Unlike most races in the galaxy, the Tyranids have no social or ideological goal. Their goal is survival. Collectively, they form fleets of these bioforms known as hive fleets, or biomechanical structures known as hive ships. They move through systems stripping planets of biomatter like locusts.
Yeah.
And using this collected matter, they fuel their further evolution and expansion. This rapid development enables Tyranids to make astounding leaps in evolution that would take other species millions of years to complete.
And I think that's why, like, again, like Kryptman did what he did, or like Kryptman, why he did what he did. It's simply due to the fact that, like, if you let these things just start consuming planets, they're going to evolve and they're just going to start becoming massive in numbers. You're not going to be able to do anything about them. But at the point where you're not fighting them and you're just exterminating planets, it's like, you know, what the fuck is the point then? Even if your first choice is to just burn the planet, then what the fuck is even the point, you know? With the industry you have on those planets, especially if you're talking like large high planets, the industry you have on those planets, you can put up a pretty good fight, you know? So I think it's definitely worth it to not blow up systems worth of planets in your wake to stop the Tyranids. But I can see where the mind process comes from. I can see where the thought comes from to do that, let's say. But yeah, Tyranids, they just fucking consume everything and they don't fucking stop. Such a massive threat.
Astounding leaps in evolution that would take other species millions of years to complete. Tyranids share a powerful ability in that form of the hive mind. This enables them to share information, react and make large-scale decisions near instantaneously from the masses of forms that make up their collective. They also have a common psychic bond known as the synapse. This enables them to move and coordinate with other Tyranids around them as if one greater organism. The behaviour likened more to the conscious and unconscious muscle contractions of a larger entity than actual individual behaviour. The reactive movement of flocks of birds causing a natural spatial shifting is not entirely unlike the way in which the Tyranid synapse behaves. This collective reactionary cooperation is especially important when you consider that Tyranid's approach to warfare is simply often to overwhelm through weight of numbers, a tidal wave of seething, vicious, corrosive biomass.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I read the book years and years ago. I think both books, actually. But the movie Ender's Game. If you ever watch the movie Ender's Game, and you watch the battle sequence at the end, not trying to spoil it or anything, but just the way the alien ships move, the way they act, similarly kind of a thing. You know, they're insects, they're kind of a hive mind. Tyranids, not really an insect, but still a hive mind kind of capability. They move in a very similar manner. So if you're looking for like a good like view of that, I guess, on like a larger scale ship combat, I think Ender's Game, like the movie was okay, it's passable as a movie, but the battle scene they did pretty well in at the end there.
With numbers beyond estimation forming the Tyranid fleets, the hive mind is critically important, as the organisms, sentient or otherwise, who compromise the Tyranids would just return to a state of rapid disorder and survivalist instincts without some intrinsic link to keep them focused and organised. Unlike many species in the 41st millennium, the Tyranids are far from xenophobic. In fact, they actively seek genetic transfer of material across species. They will absorb and utilise any useful genetic traits they discover.
The Tyranids are the least racist life forms.
This information will then be used to improve their effectiveness either in biomatter consumption and efficiency or combat. All Tyranids are produced from a single life form within the hive fleets known as the Norn Queen. Without this bioform, they would be unable to continue to replenish their forces, and much like any life form that lives in a colony, the Queen is to be found at the centre, where she is most difficult to reach and most well defended. She essentially not only reproduces but bioengineers the life forms in a Tyranid swarm. The queens will also relay information to one another psychically through the hive mind and enable them to create better suited or more powerful life forms.
So I wonder, and let me know if anybody knows, maybe he'll explain it more in this video or the next ones, but are the queens able to communicate amongst themselves? Are the hive fleets able to communicate amongst themselves? Or are they purely kind of locked into their own sort of hive, you know, in a sense? Or is there like a greater sense of communication between them? Because it makes me think, like, would hive fleets of different queens, would they actually fight each other? You know, like, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I'd assume not, but like maybe, you know, because like different ants and like different, you know, insects, things of that sort on our planet, you know, they would attack each other if they don't, you know, if they're different queens, right? So I'm just thinking maybe the Tyranids would be the same. Has it ever been documented where two Tyranid hive fleets have actually like been intertwined at all? Like, is that a thing? Somebody let me know.
Hive mind and enable them to create better suited or more powerful life forms. They also transmit orders and information to the lesser entities. In order to continue reproduction of the Tyranid bioforms, the Norn Queens require a constant supply of biomass. and this is literally pumped from a planet that has been harvested by a Tyranid swarm back to their hive ships in orbit. Disgusting reclamation pools are formed on the planet's surface where all biomass is dissolved together collectively. The Queen will then continually produce new Tyranid forms in a variety of ways, from eggs to live births, larvae, or grown in amniotic sacs. Most forms produced, though, do require further nurture from a worker class who, as with most colony life forms, provide them with the nutrition and care needed until they can survive for themselves. In the case of Tyranids, this usually happens very quickly. The most significant encounters with the Tyranids have occurred relatively recently.
So I just want to say too, that image of like those fucking like biological fucking pipes coming down from the atmosphere, that's a fucking crazy scene. Like that would be fucking some shit to see, you know, like, holy fuck. That, like, I can see why the Tyranids are probably one of the most like horrific things. Like, they literally are just like fucking xenomorphs mixed with like, I don't even know what, dude. But like, you can totally see, like, you know, it's just like xenomorphs in like the Starship Trooper sense, you know. That's kind of like what the Tyranids are. They're fucking just a complete horror show. Like, you would not want to fucking fight these as any race. Fucking awful, man.
The most significant encounters with the Tyranids have occurred relatively recently.
See why they're like so interesting, though.
They're a fairly new threat, having first been truly encountered around 745 in Millennium 41. But rumours and fragments of information can potentially trace their impacts to anything in the region of the 35th millennium or before. They're believed to have been attracted to the galaxy due to the Emperor's psychic beacon, the Astronomicon, which acts as a lighthouse for Imperial ships.
That would make sense.
Warp. Imperial navigators use it to calculate their courses through dangerous warp space. The first major incursion by the Tyranids was Hive Fleet Behemoth, which, after causing catastrophic damage on countless worlds, was ultimately repelled by the Ultramarines chapter. But this battle was barely a victory, the losses so high they would take hundreds of years to replenish and recover from. These events gave a worrying glimpse to the Imperium of the power wielded and damage that could be inflicted from a Tyranid hive fleet. It's feared and suspected that much worse is even to come, and the Tyranids have really only begun to scout through the galaxy. Tyranid hive...
And, like, I know some of you guys in the Discord, like, again, I have a lot of, like, and I can see why, like, the Tyranids, they seem fucking sweet. Like, again, they're fucking xenomorphs on a mass scale. Why wouldn't you like them? Like, they fucking look cool, and also their paint schemes, too, are fucking sweet, too. Leviathan, Behemoth, man, they all look so fucking cool, the Tyranid paint schemes, I have to say. Especially, I've seen some airbrush techniques on them. They look fucking great. But, like, holy shit, like, and you guys say, like, you know, I've been told, like, the universe as a whole is kind of surrounded. You know, you have different hive fleets kind of coming at different angles. Nobody knows the greater whole. Is that, like, just simple starting tendrils? Is there a mass fleet behind it? You know, I would assume that there's probably so many fucking Tyranids out there. If they're moving through deep space in that sense, like, and it's, you know, they're doing it in a conventional sense, as in, like, you know, not faster than light in a sense. I don't know if the Tyranids have faster than light travel. Somebody let me know. Like, how do the Tyranids... I'd assume not, right? That's the thing. They move so fucking slow. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Somebody let me know. Maybe he'll tell me.
Through the galaxy.
Space travel. Okay, he's probably going to tell me.
Fleets and their subsequent
I got it. Never mind. Stop typing.
Systems consuming all biomatter, but they never enter the warp, nor do they possess actual faster-than-light technology in the standard sense. They instead use psychic powers of a specialized hive ship known as a narval that manipulates gravity fields of any star system they are in to achieve faster-than-light travel. The narval ships are more scouting than combat focused, and they use clusters of monofilaments to assess electromagnetic and gravimetric information. This enables them to detect the direction and location of new systems containing potential biomatter for the fleet. The details on how the naval ships actually use this are not clear, but in essence what may happen here is the naval somehow create a huge gravity well, enabling the fleet to then move at speeds equivalent to fast and light tech as used by the Imperium. This huge distortion of gravity has a devastating impact though on inhabited planets in the system, with the gravity well causing cores of planets to swell, creating subsequent earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and any number of damaging consequences. The Tyranid fleet then essentially fall through this compression, allowing them to reach their destinations at immense speed. The physics of this are all pretty spurious, but not much more than anything else around this kind of travel. The one problem for Tyranids is that on arriving after travelling through the gravity well, they are then only capable of sub-light speeds, and so this can mean that they will still take many years or even decades to actually reach their final destination. If they're able to be detected in time, this window may give whatever worlds they're headed for time to prepare, evacuate, or call for defensive reinforcements. The all-encompassing effects of the psychic hive mind of the Tyranids forms a phenomena known as the shadow in the warp. This smothers and envelops whole star systems. Whenever a Tyranid fleet is near, this effect will become apparent, as Psykers will struggle to manifest their abilities. Navigation and communication become nearly impossible. For the Imperial...
Isn't that fucked up? So you literally know, like, when you're about to get fucked by a hive fleet, because, like, none of your navigational, like, you know, none of your psychers are able to fucking navigate anymore. They're just not able to fucking see clearly anymore, and it's like, what the fuck? What's going on? It seems we've been shrouded. Like, holy fuck.
Navigation and communication become nearly impossible. For the Imperium, this apparently ambient effect of the Tyranid race is especially devastating, as they rely on psychic communications heavily. If a planet becomes enveloped by this effect, they will unlikely be able to call for help, and are then left with the sobering prospect of facing the inevitable Tyranid swarm alone. The Imperium perceives the Tyranid fleets as separate forces, competing with one another for resources, much like any other organism of the same species will compete with their own for resources. However, in reality, this is not the case. The Tyranids, through their hive mind, form a much more complex construction of organisms. Perhaps the most terrifying fact about the Tyranids, though, is their drone-like single focus. Much like any large predators looking into those black eyes, you know that they have no feelings about their actions, only that they know what they must do, and their instincts and synapse-led instructions from the hive mind tell them all they need to know. The strength of the hive mind and its localized area of effect will actually wax and wane, but it's strongest around some of the more significant bioforms like Tyranid warriors, hive tyrants, which will...
So first, I just want to pause on this because this looks so fucked up. But also, interesting that hive fleets will work together. They'll actually, you know, for the greater good kind of thing, like conglomerate. Now, I don't know if like the Imperium knows that though. Like, I don't know if that's like knowledge that the Imperium would have, or if that's just like lore that we kind of like know as readers, like viewers, you know. But that's extremely interesting because, yeah, I would have thought they totally competed. But this illustration's nuts. Like, you can see them being overrun. There's a dead Astartes in his grasp. The scarred soldier is just going to take his easy way out. He's like, yeah, fuck that. Which, like, fair enough. Like, look at the landscape, man. Like, it's not winnable.
Cause this amplification effect of the hive mind. Without these synaptic linchpins, many of the lesser Tyranid forms would actually revert to unfocused animalistic behaviours. But for that reason, there is no one commander within a Tyranid force most often, but multiple senior forms that secure the network of the hive mind, uniting and focusing the lesser forms. This synapse link bonds Tyranids together like an invisible rubber banding effect. The larger warriors and tyrants are capable of some level of decision making, although this is still relative to their role within the hive mind, and is much more reactionary or preemptively instinctual than actually tactical. With that said, they can learn and react from their enemy, which can again give the impression that they are actually reacting to that, but it's a more kind of genetic instinct. The whole thing is more a chorus of chaotic input that runs through specialized synapse entities who act as hubs to convey and facilitate the distribution and collection of this mass synaptic data. These
Goddamn.
creatures, though, are undoubtedly powerful psychic organisms, and any psychic entity of power usually will attract attention from the dark beings who reside within the warp, and this has been established for a long time. But why is it then that the Tyranid psykers seem not to attract the nightmarish beings from within the warp, when the opposite is true for almost all other races?
Well, I would have to simply assume because there's nothing to corrupt. It's a hive mind, right? It's probably such a, like an immense force. It's on such an immense scale. Like what it's, there's no one individual entity to corrupt in a sense. Like, I don't know how you would corrupt the Tyranids more. They're just hungry. They just want to eat. Like, that's all they want to do. They don't have motivations. They don't have any greater wants, any greater needs. It's just a fucking animal trying to survive, as far as I know, So
It simply is a mystery.
Maybe I'm wrong, but
Tyranids use a unique method of construction to create their ships, weapons, and general mechanical requirements.
okay.
This means that they do not need to be concerned with locating metals or fabrication of plastics. Instead, as with everything, they utilize biomass collected from the worlds that they ravage. This biomass is then genetically engineered to grow the structures or components they require. This means that everything they use or inhabit is in essence a part of the Tyranid collective, down to the smallest glands or connective tissues right through to gargantuan bioengineered starships. The very worst of their creations are, of course, the combat-focused entities. To a human, they embody everything that is Xenos. They are literal nightmares made real. While they do possess ranged weapons, many Tyranid creatures are fighters and melee-focused. A great deal of Tyranid weaponry are these creatures' own teeth and claws, but simply bioengineered to appalling degrees of effect.
And saying that too, like, it's cool playing Battlefleet Gothic Armada, and like, you see, like, teeth and claws as the weapons on your ships. Like, on your biggest fucking ship, it's a mouth. It just has a fucking mouth on it. And it's like, holy shit, It's crazy looking. Like, it's actually so insane. So, yeah, like, everything in the Tyranid fleet, be it from the smallest enemy to a fucking starship to anything you see, is a living organism. That's so fucking wild, man. Wow.
Own teeth and claws, but simply bioengineered to appalling degrees of effectiveness. These claws will slice clean through all but the toughest armor and eviscerate their enemies in seconds. They also carry ranged biocannons firing invasive, venomous parasitic projectiles that will burrow into the flesh of their enemy, being very much as unpleasant as it sounds. They usually also fire a good shower of acidic poison as well that will melt and dissolve through almost anything, including the armor of a wearer, in seconds.
Goddamn.
Suddenly, normal projectile weapons don't seem quite so bad.
Yeah.
Often as well, Tyranids do not carry their weapons in the strictest sense. More, they are usually fused extensions of their own bodies, creating an appalling parody of form. Some will have spines on their bodies that can also expel and impale their targets, pinning them in place or just dismembering them where they stand. Most Tyranid weapons conform to this formula of sharp implements or acidic spray. Some creatures, though, like the lictors, will fire tendrils with razor-sharp hooks, pulling the hapless enemy into close range of its powerful claws, whereupon it would obviously be torn to pieces. Some Tyranid creatures like the termagants will fire live creatures from their bioweapons. The termagant's flesh borer is one such weapon, and as the name implies, it fires beetles that unpleasantly bore through armor and into the flesh and beyond. Other weapons like the shot cannon fire sinew.
Termagants are actually one of the units that I have in my box. I got quite a few Terminant units, I think. So whenever you see these smaller guys with guns, they're literally firing fucking beetles that burrow into people. That's so sick, man. Holy shit.
And into the flesh and beyond.
I assume they're a pretty bitch basic enemy, like on the tabletop, but like God, how freaky to actually like have to fight,
Pulse energy. Another interesting weapon in the Tyranid arsenal are the barbed strangler seed pods. These are fired out and then upon impact grow to maturity in seconds, with barbed tendrils reaching out in all directions sections, trapping, strangling, eviscerating anything they come into contact with.
Goddamn.
Tyranids even have biomines known as spore mines, and these are automatically triggered when a non-Tyranid comes into close proximity. These mines are not embedded in the ground, but rather float around after being deployed until they come near a target and activate. As with most mines, mechanical or otherwise, the detonation releases in spore mines a nasty cocktail of acid, toxic gas and chitin shrapnel with relative consequences to its target. Now, Tyranids obviously do not wear armor in the normal sense. As with everything, they have bioengineered reinforced carapaces or body shells. Larger organisms will also likely have strengthened exoskeletons. These armored shells turn their wearer from biomachine to biotank form. These shells are harder than Imperial ceramite, and only the heaviest anti-vehicle weaponry is going to be able to begin to scratch the surface.
That's crazy.
Smaller Tyranid forms will sport strengthened chitin, and this is more akin to...
But it makes sense, though, because, like, again, when you're talking about what the Tyranids are, they're consuming worlds worth of biomass. I'm sure they can invest on a little bit more armor, especially with a hive mind that's constantly evolving in the sense, you know, all they need to do is fight one battle with the Imperium to know their capabilities to bioengineer weapons or defenses against what they have. In theory, right? Isn't that fucking nuts? So like they're pretty fucking OP in a sense, like the Tyranids. Holy shit. And again, makes sense why they're so fucking scary and why they're so like loved in universe, you know, not in universe, but loved by the fans, I should say. Again, I find them super fucking interesting. Wow.
The surface. Smaller Tyranid forms will sport strengthened chitin, and this is more akin to a tough hide than a bone-like carapace. This is the standard for the smaller, more disposable organisms in a Tyranid swarm, and will only really prevent melee attacks and small weapons fire. Anything more and its defensive abilities are actually going to be pretty limited. The larger creatures will though have a chitin covering, a carapace. This can cover sections or all of the creature and is much more effective at protecting the Tyranid organism that use this form of protection. On top of these natural defenses and bioweapons, Tyranids also have plenty of attributes, offensive and defensive, that they wield as part of their own bodies. Acid being pretty common among Tyranids, with acidic jaws, spitting venom that consumes and
that's straight out of Alien, man. Wow. That's awesome.
Skin also allows some Tyranids to stealthily blend into surroundings to launch ambush attacks on passing enemy.
See, like, and again, like, it's just so nuts to me, like, you know, the inspirations back in the day, like in the 80s, 90s, you know, the creativity was like so high, everyone was inspired by each other, and it's just like, holy shit, like, it's straight out of, like, you know, horror shit. It's straight out of Ridley Scott's Alien, like, you know, it's Ridley Scott, is that right? I don't fucking know, you know, but like, whatever, like, point remains, like, this is straight out of a fucking horror movie, like, these enemies, you know, but there's so fucking many of them. It's not like, you know, an Alien where there's just like one on the ship and it's absolutely annihilating you guys. Imagine if there was like fucking 80 on the ship at the same time, and just how quickly like shit would have gone down, you know? That's basically what it is, you know? Wow.
Is to stealthily,
and the xenomorphs given time, I think that was, sorry, not to get on the alien talk, but the xenomorphs given time, I'm pretty sure that was the whole point, is that they would breed out of control if the queen was actually allowed to live, and that's like why they were so fucking dangerous, right? I'm pretty sure.
Bionic skin also allows some Tyranids to stealthily blend into surroundings to launch ambush attacks on passing enemy. Enhanced neural senses enable Tyranids to detect hidden enemy using tech to cover their appearance or location, and powerful leaping appendages allow them to fly into battle, crushing enemies in the process. Many have increased regenerative abilities that enable the fast healing of even catastrophically severe wounds. Some Tyranids simply just possess very spiky and thorny carapaces, so when they charge into battle, any enemy not already physically crushed will be lacerated or impaled by the creature's own surrounding body armor. A thorax swarm is another particularly nasty contained weapon some Tyranids feature. In their swollen chest cavities, many creatures are amassed, a bulging swarm of parasitic creatures. And when in proximity of the enemy, this thorax sac will just erupt in a huge burst, throwing the parasites hurtling towards and drowning the unwitting victims in thousands of these smaller, very aggressive Tyranid forms. These will then proceed to crawl inside armor, down enemies' throats, and chew through eyes and exterior flesh. They will then emit either arcs of electricity, charring their victims, or suck all the moisture out of their body, desiccating them in seconds,
Holy.
or just climb in and around the bodies of the enemy, exploding with needles of chitin, literally bleeding them to death. In general, Tyranid forms are sharp, acidic, and hazardous in general to your health. But it's not just the small life forms. The living ships themselves also have offensive and hazardous attributes.
Right,
they will
yeah,
generally
like teeth,
feature the common
fucking
acidic
tentacles.
weapons that will burn through the hull of enemy ships, and ordnance that will actually burrow its way inside of enemy vessels to then launch smaller Tyranids from these. Small or large, all Tyranids are formed from the reconstituted biomatter of their unwilling victims. Spliced together and reformed in their own image, part of the horror is not simply that they will destroy you and everything you know, but that all of this
They'll recreate
and yourself will become Tyranid in a horrific parody of form and evolution.
Ugh. Invasion tactics and... I didn't catch that last one, sorry. Invasion tactics and planetary harvesting.
The Tyranid's main means of acquiring new biomatter is, as previously mentioned, to secure a planet and then proceed to forcibly rape the land of all its life forms and resources, in usually a wholly unpleasant process. Let's see what that entails. Now, firstly, the Tyranids will, for want of a better word, recon the world they intend to harvest. They will instigate initial stages of infection by deploying Tyranid species known as lictors, also gene stealers and vanguard drone ships.
So, depending on what the nature of the fleet invasion is, we've seen gene stealers infiltrate, and it takes decades, years to put that plan in motion. But when it does, it goes in hard, you know what I'm saying? But I imagine the counter to that would be they just put deployed actual flying Tyranids to the planet when it's pretty obvious that a Tyranid invasion's about to take place. But with gene stealer cults, you got no fucking idea it's happening. And that's the freakiest part about it. Your children just start getting born differently, Ugh. Gene Stealer Cult was such a fucked up story, man. Go check that out if you guys haven't. Fucking awesome video.
Also Gene Stealers and Vanguard drone ships. These creatures focus mainly on concealment and stealth, but are undoubtedly still horrific and dangerous in their viciousness.
Yeah.
They'll also unusually focus on staying alive, as opposed to in later full-blown assaults, which are much more like a tidal wave of Tyranid form, literally clogging the enemy with acidic death. These species are also unusual compared to most main assault Tyranid lifeforms because of their independence. They exhibit more self-awareness and more situational choices than the swarms that will likely follow. This has no doubt been decided as the most effective course of action and behaviour for these early scouting Tyranids.
Yeah.
The Vanguard drone ships are simply the transportation for these early scouts. They are small, independent ships and only will periodically return back to the main Hive fleet vessels.
And again, it makes sense because, if you're gonna if you're gonna deploy a scout to the planet, it doesn't make sense that scout just fucking gets there and dies instantly because it's hungry, So it would totally make sense that they would bioengineer something that has a bit of self-control in a sense. That makes a lot more sense, especially for a recon unit. Yeah, absolutely.
Independent ships.
Something that'll run away, hide.
Return back to the main Hive.
A true predator,
vessels.
yeah.
Lictors are the masters of stealth. Using feeder tendrils, they analyze all the environmental elements and constituent biomatter that is available to them. They may also choose to kill and devour life forms to absorb their memories, as is one of the Tyranid traits. These memories may give them further relevant information or acquire locations to explore. Gene Stealers, though, will not simply acquire biomatter intel, they will also begin the infection of the Tyranid forms in the local ecosystem. This corruption will eventually result in the first Tyranid hybrid creatures from the planet's native species being formed. Once these initial recon periods are complete, the Tyranids will quickly switch their behaviour from somewhat passive investigation to full-on planetary infestation and excessive aggression. A psychic call emitted to the swarm will alter the fleet and subsequently pull the Hive ship toward the planet. Any humanoids on said planet at this time would be advised to panic, because infestation will now begin. As the Hive fleet draws near, it will, as previously stated, disrupt much if not all communication from the target planet, and its inhabitants, and they will now be cut off from the wider systems surrounding it, unable to call for help.
You really got to catch these things early.
Any evacuations
like when it's
that
going to
can
happen.
be made would probably be advised to do so, but even they may not escape with the Hive fleet monitoring movement in and around their target planet. Even if ships were sent to counter and defend a planet, they may not be able to actually exit into warp space because of the Tyranids' psychic effect, the shadow in the warp. And once arriving at the planet, mycetic spores are released into the atmosphere, raining down. And these spores seed the planet with microorganisms which will alter and distort the planet's natural organic life forms. They'll also begin to break down complex organic molecules and alter them to be more suitable for absorption by the swarm.
Isn't that fucked? So like even before like any Tyranid forces have even arrived on the planet, they're already changing the ecosystem to their, you know, so like you're defending the planet, you're on the planet, you're defending, and around you, you just see the environment starting to melt around you. Like, isn't that fucking crazy to think about? And then it's just like, what am I even defending anymore? It's already fucked. You know, it's already tainted, you know? I don't know how you would remove that once it's happened. Like once they arrive, they start doing that. Even if you win against the Hive fleet, like isn't your planet already fucked at that point? Like, I don't know if you can reverse that proper.
Complex organic molecules and alter them to be more suitable for absorption by the swarm. This first, as one of many unpleasant processes, can affect complex and simple life forms. Meanwhile, other spores will actually contain the more complex Tyranid life forms, and these will begin to group together, preparing to assault when commanded to do so. Others, though, will burrow underground, planting more spores that will then grow into capillary towers. These vast chitin towers raise up out of the ground and reach as high as the upper atmosphere. Reclamation pools will then appear near to them, linked via underground root systems. These towers will then later connect via the tubes from the Hive ships to suck up biomatter from the planet. Capillary towers can grow almost anywhere. Environmental conditions seem to not affect them. The reclamation pools are the unpleasant pools where all the planet's biomatter is gathered and broken down collectively. It's essentially a thick soup of dissolving life forms, both sentient and non, which the Hive ships will then suck dry.
Right.
But
so like your
will not
plant
just
mass,
reach the
your
organic
biological
surface of the
mass,
planet, but also its underground mineral wealth. So this initial infestation phase will mean creatures underground begin seeking and mining out a planet's mineral wealth to again be dissolved.
Again, all this while the planetary defense is like still taking place.
The concealed infiltrators, the lictors and gene stealers will now emerge, bursting from their hidden positions around the planet to attack anything that they have deemed to be a vital defensive system from their intelligence collection efforts. They may target senior leaders, officers, critical infrastructure. All are going to be prime targets, and these attacks will also start to cause fear, panic, confusion from further hindering a planet's attempt to keep control of any kind of public order.
That's fucked.
Once the Tyranids have begun this initial phase, it will not be long before the more severe and far more aggressive assault will begin.
Right.
These initial stages, while
the ground assault begins,
are just a pale taste of what's to come. Swarms of Tyranid forms will thunder across the planet, slaughtering anything native that stands in their way. All the small forms like the gene stealers and those seeded like gaunts, gargoyles, etc. are going to be present, but now also will come the bigger forms, carnifexes and hierophants, the true nightmare creatures. The capillary towers will also start to burst from the planet's surface as well, reaching up into the skies, and vast swathes of Tyranids scouring the planet. The towers will start to begin the process of consuming biomatter because there is no standing on ceremony for victory. From the initial assault to the final exodus, the process of absorption and consuming biomatter will begin. The capillary towers themselves are far from inert systems.
Begins immediately, and like this picture here sums it up, like this illustration sums it up perfectly. Like these are Astartes still on the planet, just looking over it, and you can just see the world getting fucking ravaged around you. And it's like, what are we even fighting for on this planet? Like there's nothing left. It's a desolate world. It's dead. You know, they just killed it so quickly. While we were defending, in the days we were defending, planet's already sucked dry. And maybe we killed their fleet in space, but that doesn't bring the planet back, you know? Like, goddamn. What a devastating force.
They'll actually throw out tendrils and tubules that can absorb life forms and native species. For more civilian planets, the Tyranids will usually just allow the Gene Stealers and Gaunt Genus to do most of the work. Termagants, they will also make up this battle force, as will the Tyranid warriors, keeping the swarms coordinated and focused, relaying the hive mind among them. More heavily defended planets, however, are going to require more significant firepower, and the Tyranids unfortunately have this at their disposal in the form of Hierophants. These bio-titans are terrifying enemies, towering over the battlefield. They are some of the largest forms in the Tyranid arsenal, comparable in size to Imperial Titans. Armed with some of the largest biocannons in the Tyranid weaponry, a large electrochemical discharge spews corrosive maggots that upon impact of any structure or enemy will, in combination with a highly corroding acid, will burn, burrow and dissolve whatever they come into contact with, inevitably reducing it to a pool of dissolving, screaming, collapsed biomatter.
So I imagine if those, like, Titan on Titan combat, if you're like an Imperium Titan, let's say, like, I imagine if they get hit by one of those, it just would fucking eviscerate them instantly, right? I like vice versa, obviously, like, you know, it's kind of like when you get to the scale of Titans, it's kind of like one shot, one shot, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I feel like it's pretty equal in that sense, but for the Tyranids, it's such just like not a loss to lose one of their Titans. Like, it is, but it isn't. I'm sure they can just easily make more, but for the Imperium to lose it, holy shit, like that's such a big loss for the Imperium to lose like a Titan, especially like a Warlord or bigger, you know? That would be such a tremendous loss of resources, material that you will never get back nor reclaim because it's now a part of the Tyranid fleet. Isn't that fucking nuts? Like, holy shit.
It also is supported by heavy armoured chitin, as well as any number of blades and claws. Their own hide also exudes spores of poison, and its belly scattered with spined tendrils, lashing out and impaling any enemy who attempts to get close to it. It can, as with most Tyranids, also rapidly evolve, even on the battlefield, to adapt to whatever it might be faced with. These assaulting forces are mainly suppressive in their objective. They're not there to collect or break down biomaterial for the hive, they are there to crush resistance to the swarm. All materials will be later collected with ease.
Yeah.
One of the most efficient elements of the Tyranid assault is that simply nothing is wasted. Death means very little to the Tyranid swarm because any deaths will simply just be reabsorbed into the biomatter pool and then later reconstituted. This high level of efficiency and minimal waste explains why the Tyranids are more than happy to win battles through sheer weight of numbers, with apparently little to any downside.
Yeah, because if they win, then
to any force attempting to repel an enemy with no real appreciation for the horrors they're inflicting, and certainly no moral compass of any kind. But then what does have a moral compass in the 41st millennium?
That's
fair. They are unrelenting and nearly unstoppable, an irresistible force of violent evolutionary design. As with the...
And that being said, though, I think honestly they're probably, like, again, it all depends on, like, is the race capable of hatred? And to me, the Tyranids, from what I know about them right now, maybe again it'll be explained, maybe I don't know, I probably don't, but to me right now they just seem like an animal trying to survive. Like, that's all I'm saying. They don't have hate, they're not racist, you know? The Imperium's pretty racist, the Eldar are pretty racist. The Eldar are very racist, in fact. You know, they just straight up say monkey, you know, like it's pretty questionable, you know, you can't just be saying that, you know, but they do. And, you know, the orcs, actually, I don't think the orcs are that racist. I think the orcs just want to kill everybody equally, to be honest. They just want a good fight. I think if you provide them a good fight, then they don't really give a shit, you know, they're more than happy. So I guess maybe the orcs, honestly, as bad as that sounds, like as bad as that sounds, on a moral level, Tyranids, orcs, probably Eldar, Imperium, maybe on a moral level. Somebody let me know your guys' thoughts on that, because like I'm not talking in like their actions, I'm just saying like in terms of morality, because again the Tyranids, to me, they're not capable of like hatred. They don't fucking hate you, they're just trying to, you know, they're just trying to survive, they're just trying to live. Maybe they do, maybe they just absolutely do fucking hate you, I don't know, maybe there's like more to that, maybe the hive mind is smarter than I'm giving it credit to, but you know, that's all I'm saying.
The orcs, a planet suffering from this level of infestation, is in a critical state. Even if arriving defenders were able to somehow destroy the Hive fleet's main ship, the existing Tyranids on the planet's surface will cause ongoing devastation for potentially millennia to come. Tyranid planetary infections occur at a microbial level, so truly eradicating them can be nearly impossible.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Of full-scale exterminatus, which
Wow.
would somewhat defeat the point of trying to save a colony or planet in the first place.
Yeah.
But as the Imperium, you're probably certainly keeping that option on the table.
I think it just depends on what the planet is. Like, if it's a hive world...
With much of the planet overrun with Tyranids and any defenders likely beginning to buckle, if not already collapsing under the weight of nightmarish violence and body-ruining acidic bioweaponry, the collection process for the planet's biomatter will now be well underway, and the world now entering a downward spiral that it will struggle to, if not already be unable to reverse. Worse still, if a battle is proving especially challenging and continuing, the Tyranids will then start to utilise biomatter on the surface to form new creatures and effectively use the planet against itself. Rippers will begin a swathe of foul consummation, sweeping across the surface and consuming and devouring all matter in their sight. Once these rippers have had their fill, they will proceed to the biopools around capillary towers. Yet instead of bringing up their consumed mass into the pool or depositing it by some other means of excretion, the rippers will shockingly throw themselves into the biopools to simply be dissolved and then consumed back into the biomass of the Hive fleet. This disturbing act demonstrates how the Tyranids hold little to any regard for their own individual entities and view their form as a singular collective, a whole organism one and the same. New rippers will be continually produced until the planet's matter is exhausted. Ocean, sea life, mineral wealth, surface fauna, it's all one and the same, will all be consumed. At this stage, the planet is now far beyond any hope of rescue or redemption and is essentially doomed at this point in time. If the Imperium had the option to do so, this would be the point to perform exterminatus on the planet, but it's just as likely that they wouldn't actually be able to reach or assist the no doubt highly traumatized scraps of remaining humanoids hidden somewhere underground in deep bunkers. If no action is taken, they may survive by chance, but more likely will be dug down to and extracted by the nightmarish alien force.
Goddamn.
Still, not all hope is lost in the grand scheme of things. A defensive move is possible at this point and would actually be somewhat useful. It would be entirely possible that the Tyranids at this juncture may be at a point where they have to expend more biomatter than they are yet to have been able to consume, meaning they're actually at a net loss in terms of their overall collection of biomatter. So to launch an attack at this point would actually be tactically sound from a generally defensive point of view for other worlds in the system, and may even mean that the Tyranid threat can either be repelled, if not potentially defeated.
Yeah.
The Tyranid's goal is...
As sick as it is to say, though, like, yeah, like the defenders of that world have whittled them down, hopefully enough. If you're going to do it, you got to do it now before they claim that planet entirely and move on to yours. As sick as that is to say, that's just the truth. When they're in their collection phase, at their weakest, in theory, after the defense has fallen, yeah, that's where you have to take your opportunity to do anything about it. On the grand scheme of things, absolutely true on that.
The Tyranid threat can either be repelled, if not potentially defeated. The Tyranid's goal is always to gain more biomatter than they began an assault with, to profit from each encounter. To leave with less matter than they arrived would certainly not demoralize them. They have no concept of such a thing, but it would potentially slow down their reproduction of forms and possibly even make further assaults more survivable for a planet. So even though a singular planet may well be completely lost, for the Imperium or whoever is fighting back against the High Fleet, there is a real purpose to still fight and try to mitigate whatever damage they have inflicted in a larger sense. And this is true of the wars and conflicts in the 41st millennium. They're often part of a larger picture, and so these efforts are not as pointless as they might appear to be. They could mean that future Tyranid assaults are successfully repelled before reaching a point of no return. Meanwhile, though, Tyranid forms would be far from concerned with such grandiose concepts, and instead be wholly focused on their task of extracting biomatter. an orgy of consummation continuing across the entire planet. After the capillary towers are spread across the surface, the oceans, and below ground, life forms and resources are being reaped from the subdued world. The Tyranids will then begin the process of absorbing the accumulated biomatter to their hive ship. Tendrils are extended from the hive ship to connect with the capillary towers, which are now high in the atmosphere. And the biomatter from the pools around the capillary towers will now be pumped up to the ship. But now comes a most shocking twist to the story. Once all the planet's defensive forces are completely destroyed, even the surviving Tyranid forces will begin to throw themselves suicidally into the digestive biopools
that makes sense
surrounding the capillary towers.
Yeah, absolutely. I could totally see that. Because again, a death isn't a loss to them. There's no such thing as death if you're one entity. They're just going to get remade. It's just going to they're going to get reformed anyway. So it doesn't make any sense. Why would you, because, and then you have to think too, you have these giant pillars digesting biomass too. Does it make sense to waste time and effort getting ground forces off the ground back into space, or just fucking kill yourself and get sucked up in a fucking tube remade? Like for humans, like we obviously, we got to get ships down to the planet. We got to get people up into space. That could take so much fucking time to do, so much logistical prowess. They just fucking put themselves into a blender and up they go. That's all you got to do. Easy. Absolutely.
They are immediately broken down by the highly acidic liquids and devoured by the hive ship. All genetic material is consumed, their matter, memories, and innovations as part of this planet's assault. Once all the biomatter has been pumped to the ship, the towers will begin to draw the water itself from the planet. Then the capillary towers themselves will begin to break down and be reabsorbed by the hive ship. Lastly, and perhaps most shockingly of all, even the planet's atmosphere is consumed by the hive ship.
Really?
Before the final capillary towers are reabsorbed.
How the fuck do they get the atmosphere out of the planet? Jesus. Really not giving it any chance.
Biologists speculate the hive ships, using unseen processes, transform the planet's atmosphere into a solid matter state. As the Tyranid fleet slowly
I literally just asked, and here's the explanation. Okay.
Light speed limitations, left behind is a barren, desert-like rock.
Yeah.
A ravaged and destroyed world that will likely never see life on its surface again, nor any installations, as all resources have been extracted.
Yeah.
As the Hive fleet plan their next target, the time spent in between on the journey will be utilized in consolidating the information and new genetic profiles gathered from the last devouring. This may lead to the development of new bioforms or the improvement of existing ones, making the Tyranid either more combat effective or improving their harvesting efficiency. Because of the Tyranid's psychic force that often prevents ships from exiting the warp in a system under assault by a Hive fleet, as they leave, it may be that this is when Imperial forces first learn a world has been destroyed.
That's fucked.
With the utmost urgency, warnings and emergency action will attempt to be executed at this point.
So you usually have no way of knowing until a world has been already fucking consumed and deleted. And then it's like, oh, fuck. Quick, warn everybody. But yeah, you got no idea where it's going. Fuck.
Emergency action will attempt to be executed at this point. But with no way of knowing their destination, Imperial forces will need to move swiftly if they're able to have any hope at all of repelling wherever the Tyranid threat next decide they wish to devour.
We must scour them from the stars before they do the same to us. That was Chaplain Hurtn Cassius, Ultramarines Master of Sanctity. Wow, guys. Well, that was the Tyranids, the Devourer of Worlds, Warhammer 40k lore/history by Lutton09. Yes, guys, I thought that was an awesome video. As always, Lutton does a fantastic job at nailing these lore videos. And I just got to give him credit to that. Like, wow, what a great overall view of the Tyranids, just in general, what they're capable of, just what they can do, what a Tyranid invasion looks like. I think that was all fantastic knowledge. And then obviously he's got the episodes 1 and 2 here of his actual full-on lore videos. So if you guys want me to check those out, of course, leave a like on this video and let me know in the comments if you guys want me to check those out. I really like the fucking Tyranids so far. I'm really enjoying learning about them. I think they're fucking sweet. I don't know why I haven't checked out more of them on the channel. But yeah, Tyranids' first contact in the Battle of McCraig. That was the very first and only before this one Tyranid video I had on my channel. So if you haven't seen that, go check that one out. I thought that was fucking fantastic. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more content from me, and leave your recommendations, of course, down in the comments below. Big shout out to all of our members, all of our Hastati, and our Principe Dagenhart. I appreciate you guys. You guys inspire me to make more content for you guys every single day. Don't forget to come on by and catch this stream tonight. We will be streaming 6 p.m. EST tonight, and we will be, looks like we're doing Gilliman tonight, if I had to guess. Gilliman by the Amber King. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. So if you guys want to see that, make sure to tune in tonight on YouTube. And yeah, guys, without any further delay, this has been Centurion, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.